Thursday, May 13th, 2021 electronic meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. The meeting is being held electronically to protect the public health and safety due to the COVID-19 virus and to comply with orders issued by the governor, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and/or the Washtenaw County Health Department. We intend to conduct this meeting similarly to an in-person meeting. However, please be patient if there are technical issues. Public comment will be via telephone only. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 877-853-5247. Toll free or 213-338-8477 and enter meeting ID pound 978-6401-4515. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on TTN Channel 16, AT&T Channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/watchctn. Move on to item B, roll call. Commissioners, during roll call, please remember to state your location when your name is called. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Beeson.
Here, Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Commissioner Rockland.
I am here in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Commissioner Epperson.
I'm here in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Commissioner White.
I'm here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Washtenaw County, Michigan.
Commissioner Quijano.
I'm here also in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Commissioner Fortner. Commissioner Hall. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Move to item C, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, the agenda is approved, no objection, or as presented. On to item D, public comment. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about an issue that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda. To comment on such other preservation matters, please call 877-853-5247, toll free, or 213-338-8477, and enter meeting ID pound 978-640-4515. This information is also displayed on the meeting agenda and video feed. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. And in order to electronically raise your hand to indicate your desire to speak, please press *9 on your phone. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. Please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Kristen, do we have any callers for the public hearing?
No callers.
Yes.
Madam Chair, if I could interrupt for a sec. With the folks that are in the waiting room, if you don't have a last name attached to your name, would you put that in there, please? There's a couple where I think I know who you are, but I'm not sure. And there's one where I have no idea who you are. So we won't be able to promote you unless we know who you are. Thank you.
All right, one meeting attendee has raised their hand. All right. Catherine Fillmore. Okay.
I had no visibility to what you're seeing on your side if my name wasn't showing because I hadn't entered anything. So, but I can see you know who I am. So that's all I wonder. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Ms. Wilma. Would you like to make a public comment on a preservation or historic preservation matter in Ann Arbor?
No, I'm part of the agenda.
Okay.
She's just checking out her name. She's good.
Got it.
No other attendees have indicated.
Okay. So seeing that, we will go ahead and move on to Hearing item E, unfinished business. There is no unfinished business. So we will now move to the hearings. Item F1 at 122 West Washington. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
All right, are you guys seeing the slideshow or are you seeing my baby son?
They're seeing the slides. So.
Slideshow.
That's
Slide.
good. That's good. All right. 122 West Washington Street was built in 1869, and the first business occupying it was a locksmith. It's a 3-story brick Italianate building with 4/4 arch-topped windows with fancy brick hoods, a bracketed cornice with brick dentils and corbels, and brick pilasters. It's currently occupied by Grizzly Peak, and the former tenant was the Del Rio. There's a sign that's under review tonight, which received a certificate of appropriateness from the HDC prior to 2007. And today's application seeks approval to reface the existing projecting sign that you see in the picture by removing neon words and replacing them with edge-lit halo letters. This is a big corner sign mounted into the brick through the mortar joints correctly. The proposal is to remove the sign, remove the Grizzly Peak lettering, which is neon right now. It's sort of encased in little shells. Reface, put a backer down the sides, and then install edge-lit halo letters in place of the Grizzly Peak that's there now. So this is a revised drawing from the one that was in your packet. In your packet, you saw one that had this little oval brew pub down here as an internally illuminated, and the suggested motion has a condition on there that not happen, that be unlit. But just a couple days ago, the sign contractor was able to get me a revised drawing showing the little brew pub letters as edge-lit letters that are similar to the rest of them, the rest of the Grizzly Peak letters. So it's black background. The letters are white. They're opaque. They've this guy, maybe it's a hop, and the brew pub have green LEDs. The rest are white. It's pretty straightforward. This is edge lit. It does say that the edges are transparent. It's not like it's just floating above with open sides like some of the halo lighting that we've seen. From the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9, best supplies, that says that new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. From the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for storefronts, it's not recommended to introduce a new design that's incompatible in size, scale, material, or color, and to use inappropriately scaled signs and logos or other types of signs that obscure, damage, or destroy character-defining features of a historic building. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it's appropriate to install signage that's compatible in size, style, and materials, and to install signage that's subordinate to the overall building composition. It's not appropriate to install signs that have interior illumination or are backlit. So this is really a pretty straightforward application. The existing brackets would be reused. Everything would be reused. It's just a refacing of the existing sign. So I would suggest that if anyone wants to use the suggested motion as a basis, that they strike out the condition because that's no longer the case. Thank you.
Made it through all of that. Commissioner Fortner and Beeson were on the review committee. Commissioner Beeson, will you give us your staff report, please?
Yes, this is going to be pretty quick. Yeah, I think what you see is what you get. Not much is changing, just changing lettering. No impact on the historic structure.
Thank you. All right. With the app, Ms. Thatcher, did you have a comment?
I'm sorry, I'll save it for the discussion. I'm sorry.
Okay. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone, turn on your video if possible, and provide your name and address for the record? Is the applicant present?
I don't see them. If the applicant is present, can you raise your hand, either using *9 or selecting to raise your hand? All right, it doesn't look like they're in attendance, Jill.
Okay. You can move on to the questions portion. Or I guess move on to the public hearing since there's no one to ask questions to. I will now open the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak up for up to 3 minutes about this application at 122 West Washington. Public comment may be made by calling the toll-free number 877-853-5247 or 213-338-8477 and entering meeting ID #978-6401-4515. Christian, do we have any callers?
No callers have indicated.
I will now close the public hearing of this, public hearing portion of this application. Is there a commissioner that would like to make a motion? Commissioner Quijano?
All right. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 122 West Washington Street, a contributing property in the Main Street Historic District, to reface a projecting sign on the corner of the building. The work is, as proposed, is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for signs and the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular Standard 9 and the guidelines for storefronts.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Quijano, seconded by Commissioner White. Is there a discussion on the motion? Doesn't look like anyone has any comments. I think this application is pretty straightforward. Pretty much the same sign, it's just a change in letters and lighting, which I think is more compatible with our guidelines overall. Commissioner Rockland?
I agree. I was also curious, I was going to ask the applicant why there's a designer's note that says that halo lighting is not as effective on a black background. Does anyone know why? Okay.
Not sure. Yeah, that caught my eye as well.
It doesn't seem to be an issue with the historic district, but I was curious.
I imagine just it has a lot to do with the contrast and
Yeah.
the light contrast on bright versus dark.
You'd think a dark background would be good, and so that's why I was confused.
Yeah.
I do think that this is a great way to refresh an existing sign and, just taking the old one off, refacing it and putting it back on, using the exact same connectors and all that is a really positive for the building.
Okay. Ms. Thatcher?
This isn't a conversation for tonight, I don't think, but please consider whether this is something that should go on the staff approval list. Typically, halo lighting comes to you guys, and that's why it came here tonight, and that's fine. But if it's something that you're really not going to have much discussion about, that might be something we want to talk about separately. Not right now. Thanks.
Are you referring more to the halo lighting or the sign replacement overall?
The halo lighting, yeah.
Okay.
Especially if it's refacing an existing sign. If it was a new sign, it would have to come to you guys anyway. But if somebody wants to redo their sign, and use halo lighting, that's something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Commissioner Rockland?
So, okay, I support that entirely, Jill, and hopefully, we can just make that easy change, whatever, we need to do, because to me, the look is the same and it's a high quality kind of installation. I'm just curious if the halo light if the halo lighting does meet the letter of the law for like the dark skies approach, because there are but it's my understanding there's LEDs pointing out all around the edge, or even if they're not pointing out, if there's translucent at the top, does that, and that's light shooting up. I just want to be careful and make sure that we're not, if that part of the ordinance is still fulfilled.
Yeah,
Ms.
so
Hatcher.
we don't have a lighting ordinance yet that makes people comply with dark skies type of lighting. So it meets current codes. There's probably a lot of historic signs that didn't meet dark skies requirements. But in the future, there will come a time when that will probably be a requirement, and then this might not meet that. But today, it does meet the code and the lighting ordinance.
Sounds good. Yeah, so let's get it updated so that you can staff approve these from now on.
I
And
agree.
Commissioners, the applicant is here now. Kevin's here. If Anna, if you want to call on him or open the public hearing again, whichever way you'd like to handle it.
Yeah, we can open the, have the applicant come forward and state their name and address for the record.
Kevin, are you there? I'm wondering if he can hear us, but we can't hear or see him.
Yeah, he still has.
He's muted. Can he? How does he unmute? Is he on a phone or?
Well, he came in with his name, so.
Asked him to unmute, but that doesn't always do anything.
Yeah, does he have control or can you unmute him?
No, I can't unmute him.
How do you do it on the phone? Star or something?
Star 9?
Star 6
That's
to
to raise your
unmute.
hand.
What is it again, Kristen?
Star 6 to unmute.
Hey, Kevin, if you can hear us and you have something really compelling to say, feel free to log out and log back in. Oh, now we got a phone call-in listener. Kevin, that's you on the phone ending in 955. Hit star 9 to raise your hand, please. Yes.
Looks like you're still muted, Kevin, if you can hit star 6.
Hi.
Hi.
There's two of them, so that's where we're getting feedback. Maybe.
Yes.
The other one.
So he has to turn off his laptop or something.
Yeah.
Turn off the laptop.
Or just demote him from the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
There we
There
go.
we go.
Kevin, you there?
Okay. Now I can hear and see. I can see you're talking on the phone now. Yeah, a little
Hello.
frustrated trying to get on, but I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. Can you just state your name and give us your address for the record?
Yeah, Kevin Shore with Johnson Sign Company in Ypsilanti, Michigan, 663 South Mansfield Street.
Welcome. Did you have anything you'd like to add to the staff report or?
Well, yeah, she did give the revised drawing that I submitted yesterday regarding the where they had a problem with the backlit versus halo lit lighting in the very bottom. So we revised that to make it conforming.
Yes, we did see that drawing. And I believe one of the commissioners did have a question. Mr. Rockland, did you want to?
Sure. If it won't take up too much time, I was curious. There's something that says designer's note, halo lighting does not work well with black backgrounds. We were wondering if that had something to do with just the. Well, anyway, why don't you explain why that note's there?
Yeah, there is when you try and shine light on something black, it does not shine very well, of course.
Mhm.
But what we do in this case is they have the lettering push through that sticks through the aluminum background, and then on the let's say we'll put a white outline around all that.
Mhm.
So when the light does shine on that aluminum, then it will show some lighting.
Okay.
You need a white outline around the letters on the black next to the white letters or the push through plastic, so the light does shine. So that's what, he mentioned that, but we did not change it. I didn't talk to the owner about it, but that's what we're going to do, is add a white vinyl outline around the lettering next to the push through letters, so it does shine on something white. And that way it can shine some white light. But you'll still see some lighting no matter what, because it shines, you have the edge, which is half inch thick, and which is shining, so it does make a white edge at the same time. And then the effect of the halo is supposed to shine directly on the background. If it was white, you'd see the light a lot better. That's why he was suggesting to put, what we've done in the past is put a white outline around it, so the light can shine on something white instead of black.
Thank you.
Commissioners, are there any additional questions? All right, we can close this portion of the hearing and move back. Commissioner Quijano made the motion. It was seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any further discussion on the motion? We're ready for a vote. All commissioners, let me scroll down here for a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning your project. Thank you. All right. We will now move on to item F2, 112, 114 West Liberty. I am recusing myself from this project because I have worked on it for my employer. So I will hand it over to Commissioner Rockland.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Just pause a moment. Are we good? Okay, looks like we're good. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
All right, this is two storefronts, 112 and 114 West Liberty. They're 3-story brick Italianate commercial buildings featuring double hung 4/4 windows and round and segmented arches over the windows. They're part of a matching 6 storefront row, which was built by Adam and Anton Schaberly beginning in 1866. 112, original occupant was the Charles Binder Saloon. That's the one where the alley bar is now in this picture. And 114 was occupied by Gottlob Laubengeyer, purveyor of agricultural implements, next door where Pacific Rim is now. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to rebuild the 3rd floor 1 foot 10 1/2 inches higher, rebuild the 3rd floor north wall with new openings, add a 35-foot stair enclosure, 35 square foot, add a steel walkway across the 2nd floor roof to a steel fire escape stair leading to the rear of the building. All right. So just looking the front of the building and down the alley, the work that's going on will be behind this parapet here along the top of the 3rd floor and on top of the 2nd floor portion, which is the back half of the building. Here's another shot looking up toward the street. There's a lot going on in this alley back here. Here's a shot. These are from the review committee. We've got ducts, we've got vents and meters and platforms and propane tanks and trash cans and grease traps and all sorts of things happening back here. Let's see, I believe that this is the back door for 114 and this is the back door for 112 right here. So right now it's two separate buildings. They will have to be combined into one parcel, which isn't a very laborious process to have to go through. It's pretty straightforward. And that's because they want to do work right on the lot line back here, and you can't build a structure across a lot line. So by virtue of what they want to do, they're going to have to combine those two lots together. These are some views of the roof that were supplied in the packet. This is the Schwabenhall building in the background. It faces Ashley Street. And this is the continuation of that alley that we were just standing in those pictures. So the demolition plan would be to demolish the 3-story roof, and this is what's called the north wall here, and take off some existing skylights and equipment and things that are sitting on top of the 2nd-story roof. And what we would end up with is a roof plan here where here's the new 35 square foot stair enclosure. And this is a metal pathway leading back to the alley and a new staircase going down for egress. It's because they want to use the 3rd floor for residential. I believe it's been used for that in the past, but in order to meet code, they've got to add all of this, this emergency exit in. Here's a floor plan of what the 3rd floor would look like and the 2nd floor. We've got new condensing units, new skylights. I'm not worried about any of this stuff really that's going on top of the 2nd floor roof because you really can't see it from anywhere. The alleys are too narrow, and even from a distance, I doubt that you'll be able to see anything. Unless you're like Commissioner Beeson and start piling up things to stand on in the alley to get a better view. And even then he couldn't see much. So demolishing this roof, this is the bit where the parapet's going to come up a little less than 2 feet. See how it's sloping right now? It'll be less sloping when they're done. This is the north wall. Right now it's got like 1 window. And they'd like to put back this higher roof surface with the new 35-foot stair enclosure, new north wall with 2 windows. Here's the ramp or path leading across the 2nd floor, and here are the stairs going down into the alley. So this is not actually a common alley. This is just an open space behind each of these buildings. It's maybe 10 feet wide, and there's room to do this. I was concerned at first about these stairs coming down right next to the Schwabenhall building, but they are going to keep it a minimum of 6 inches away and still have room to get things like trash cans in and out of there if they need to, and to access the back door. Here's the new stair enclosure. You really won't be able to see this from anywhere. New walkway. You can't tell that the roof's been changed because it's completely behind the parapet. The parapet's not being changed. And there are some details in the packet. It's all very straightforward. I can refer to these details later if you'd like me to. Here's the stair going down. All right, from the Secretary of Interior standards, the ones that best apply are number 1, which says a property will be used as it was historically or be given a new use that requires minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. Number 2 says the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of distinctive materials or alteration of features, spaces, and spatial relationships that characterize a property will be avoided. Number 9, I've already read to you. And number 10 says new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property will be unimpaired. All right, moving back up here to the drawings. Give me 1 second to go through my notes and make sure I didn't miss anything. So really, putting the fire escape stairs back in the alley that's the way to do it. It's inconspicuous. It's behind the building. It's completely removable and reversible. It's kind of big, but there are character defining features of the building on this back wall, but none of them are being harmed by this placement of the stairs. So staff does believe. I wanted to mention that the windows on Schwabenhall are all modern replacement windows. They're not original windows, though the openings are original. So staff does believe that as long as building codes are being met, that this work is compatible with the existing structure and neighboring buildings and the surrounding historic district and meets the standards and guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. One moment. Okay, Commissioners Fortner and Beeson were on the review committee. Please give us your report.
Sure. I think you'd be really hard pressed to be able to see any of this work, as Ms. Thatcher had mentioned. There really are no character defining features on the back per se. There's interesting old brick, but nothing that's really super character defining. And even that said, there's really no work that would obscure or damage or anything like that.
Thank you. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone, turn on your video if possible, and provide your name and address for the record? Let us know. Hi, do you have anything to add to the staff report or the review committee?
First, I'll give my name and address. It's Rob Burrows, OX Studio, architect on the project, located at 2373 Oak Valley Drive, Ann Arbor, Michigan. So like everyone else in Ann Arbor. I don't have a tremendous amount of additional detail to add. Jill always does an amazing job outlining and summarizing projects. The motivation behind most of the requests that we're making, all the requests in fact that we're making this evening, are very specifically code related. The lifting of the third floor roof, for instance, what was not described, because I don't even know if we have presented it to anyone, is that's approximately about 6 foot height to the underside of the joist on that north side. It has been habitable in the past. In fact, previous incarnation was a residential unit there. It's no longer code compliant, and with any work going on, we absolutely have to lift this roof to make it code compliant. In addition to just the nicety of having a slightly more voluminous space interior wise, we are in complete concurrence with Jill that there is all of this is interior to the three primary parapets, does not exceed in any height aspect that the parapet itself, and will be practically lacking visibility of that work in particular. The additional item that's in question this evening is the fire escape to the north side, to the private alley, to their open zone behind the building. Again, that is likewise a code compliant issue. Obviously, it's not our desire to put a new egress stair internal to a building, particularly buildings of such small footprints and configurations, and with very active and well-liked, I recognize, inhabitants on the first floor in particular. So obviously the next choice is to go to the exterior, as you're most likely well aware, which entails the introduction of the fire escape. So the fire escape will bridge across the interstitial zone on the roof itself on the second floor to the back area to the north side, and then slightly span across to the north side of their property, and then recede directly down to the western end of the property itself and form a path of egress on their property directly to the public access way, the alleyway to the east side of the site. So one final point of reference as well, Ms. Thatcher referenced the parcel assemblage that has not been completed yet. We have already spoken after our initial meeting with Jill and the building official of trying to do proceeding with the lot combination prior to permits. That may not be successful prior to permit. He's not concerned about having that completed at that point. It's not a requirement. It would be a nicety. It makes his job, all our jobs, a little bit easier. Functionally, we'll have to submit 2 separate drawings for permit. Presently, the interior stair, as a point of reference, bridges over that lot line at this time. We would have to work around a lot of those logistics in either fashion. So we're comfortable going forward without a lot assemblage. With that, I don't know if I can add anything else again after the excellent presentation by Ms. Thatcher, but I'm certainly here for any questions and thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? John.
Yeah, I had a question on, since we have to raise the roof to get the ceiling height, I'm expecting that in order to meet energy code, we have to add some better and staggered insulation on the roof.
That's correct.
And then it gets it closer and closer to the top of the parapet at the high spot. So how close are you at the high spot of the parapet?
We're approximately 3 to 4 inches below the highest point, which would be the south parapet facing Liberty Street itself.
Okay, so even adding slightly more is going to be quite difficult because you only got 3 to 4 inches at the front. I'm asking about.
Maybe I apologize. Did I misinterpret your question? The existing height right now? No, we will be, when finished, we'll be 3 to 4 inches below that parapet.
Okay, yeah. So at the highest part of the roof, you're going to be 3 to 4 inches from the top
That's
when
right.
you're all done with it. And so the idea of even being able to add more is going to be tough because you don't have a lot of room. I'm
We-
only asking this as a way of getting, since you're flattening the roof slope and
Mhm.
being able to add more slope. I think it's going to be quite difficult to do that, it seems.
Well, we have worked through the gymnastics and dynamics behind that. We can also, it doesn't all have to take place on the roof deck. We're also insulating the underside of the roof
Oh, good.
itself. So within the rafters, the roof joists,
Yeah.
where we'll actually attain probably a higher R value and the overall displacement of the U ratios through that system itself.
All
So
right.
those
So
will be
then
foamed in place.
I guess it's kind of the balance of getting the two and getting the to meet the energy code at the roof. So I guess my interest in this is that, you know, we're taking a nice roof and making it a little flatter, which of course really changes its dynamic on how well it sheds water and creates problems, could create problems long term. So if you're adding more insulation at the bottom, I'm wondering if we can somehow affect the slope through, you know, just better tapered insulation to make it still a decent amount of slope. Like I imagine right now it's probably what, like a 1 to 12 slope right now.
It's slightly, it's about 1.5 to 12 as proposed.
Yeah.
Which is the bare minimum for basically what would entail. Well, you actually can go much less for a flat roof. We don't
Yeah.
prefer to go on the 1/4 inch on 12, which is the bare minimum by code.
Yeah.
So it's about what's proposed will be 1 to 1.5 on 12 to get some degree of slope. We have looked at it in that regard as well, and we want to make sure that the sides are flashed if there is any backup. There's obviously a limited amount of area. We don't want to have any additional water penetration into the existing masonry walls on both sides and the front,
Yeah.
and the parapet walls themselves. So those will be appropriately flashed. Typically what we would do is we would turn up the roofing system itself to completely separate those. So if there is any backup or buildup, it would be contained.
Okay. Yeah. You could tell my curiosity was about the slope and
Of course.
how that flattens and causes lots of problems in the end. But it
And
sounds
we
like
will
you
certainly
really
take that
look
to heart
at it,
too and
so,
see if we can
yeah.
diminish, if we can keep as much of that slope as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was getting
Great,
at.
great insight. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? I had a question,
Please.
just about the stair portion of the project. Can you describe maybe other options that you were considering that, or just, yeah, maybe was there any other way? Is there a ladder or something that could be used, or is the stair? I guess I want to establish, is the stair a requirement, or are there other requirements? And then secondarily, just explain the location of the stair, why it has to be where you're putting it, please.
Sure. If we go through, march ourselves through the general requirements of the building code, when you get above 2 stories for residential, you have a minimum requirement of 2 means of egress. We have the one central means, that's the existing stair that leads out to Liberty Street. The second means of egress typically is, if it's a new construction, would be an internalized or some kind of an enclosed stair. Only owing to the auspices of the Michigan Rehabilitation Code, the existing building code itself, as well as the consideration that we are in a historic district, the rehab code creates an allowance for an exterior stair to be applied, an open tread, fire escape, so to speak. Those are typically not accepted in just the straight Michigan building code. There are no additional alternates, such as a ladder that is not code compliant, or I jokingly would say like a pole or something like that. Nothing like that is actually code compliant. It is a minimum requirement to have a staired means of egress as that second component.
And then, thanks for that explanation. Can
Of
you
course.
also explain why the stair has to be kind of spanning? And, you know, it's a lot going on, but I assume was the only solution. So could you just explain to us just why that's happening?
Well, yeah, there's several key issues. One, there's 2, if not 3 doors. I think there's just 2, but I may be recalling because Pacific Rim bridges to the next building down, 116. There are at least 2 doors that egress into that alley. Basically, they're service doors for the alley bar and Pacific Rim. At some point in time where this is going to land or change, it would cross paths with that. You probably also noticed in the photographs that Mrs. Thatcher shared There's a tremendous amount of existing ductwork and other utilities. All the utilities that feed that south side of that private alley, if you will, are coming right along the face of this wall. There's an almost insurmountable task of having to relocate all those utilities, which are not even specific to this building. There is a power line, for instance, that goes directly along this face to the adjoining building next door. And on top of it all, there's every other thing you can possibly imagine from a utility perspective or access perspective that really kind of led to our first assumption was to place it against our own building. It's kind of logical. You could even possibly have a second means out from the second floor. It seemed to make sense. We immediately jumped out of that, having done the initial study that explored that as the primary. The only other alternative, because of the dimension, we couldn't split down the middle. So our only other alternative was push it as far to the north as we could without making physical contact with Schwab and Hall, out of respect for it, as well as the necessity of just giving it some breathing room. So we are proposing to keep it 6 inches away from that at a minimum so that there are no obstructions directly on that building face or no encroachment into it.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions for Rob? Okay. I'd now like to open the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak up to 3 minutes about this application at 112-114 West Liberty. Anyone on the line here?
There are no callers.
Okay. All right, well, I will now close the public hearing portion of the application. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on the application? Commissioner Quijano, thank you.
Sure thing. All right. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the applications at 112 and 114 West Liberty Street, the contributing property in the Main Street Historic District, to rebuild the third floor roof 1 foot 10.5 inches higher, rebuild the third floor north wall with new openings, add a 35 square foot stair enclosure, and add a steel walkway across the second floor roof to a steel fire escape stair leading to the rear of the building. As proposed, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, in relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 1, 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for additions, health and safety, windows, and roofs, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines, particularly as they pertain to additions, safety codes, and fire escapes.
Support.
Okay, that is moved by Commissioner Quijano and seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion on the motion? I feel like the project here is sort of split into the stair and everything else. So, I mean, just in the everything else category, it seems sort of, well, pretty cut and dry from our standpoint, seeing as it's hidden from view, which is key, or it's interior. I'm not expecting comments there, but what about the stair that's also hidden from view, but it is close to a neighboring building? Does anyone have any comments on that? Yes, Commissioner Beeson.
Yeah, so my thoughts are, yes, we know it's hidden from view, but at the same time, it is also 100% removable. So I saw that as it'll have very little impact. Even if it's removed, it won't really impact any of the structures nearby. It's not even attaching to it. So
very good. Okay. Any other comments or discussion on the motion?
Let's vote.
Yeah, let's vote. I think we're ready. So all those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning your project. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, folks. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, so we'll bring Anna back, and I'll hand it over back to her once we see her. There she is. Back to you, Commissioner Epperson. Thank you very much. It's a great project. Lots of good drawings.
Mute on the phone, sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Rockland. All right, we will now move on to item F3, 1117 West Washington.
Physician Dr. Thomas Blair was the first occupant of this house in 1927. Blair's lived here until at least 1940. It's characterized by a steeply pitched offset roof with swooping eaves, a round top front door, and casement windows in groups of 2 to 4. In 2015, the HDC issued a certificate of appropriateness to construct a second floor addition on the east side of the house. That's the gable that you see there on the left. Install a door with a fixed canopy and move a metal chimney. In 2017, the HDC approved a large patio installation in the side yard. The site's on the southeast corner of West Washington and Buena Vista in the old West Side Historic District. So this application is to add an egress window, a basement egress window. This is the, let's see, this must be the west side of the house. It's facing Buena Vista. This is the West Washington front elevation of the house. So this is the side facing Buena Vista, which is actually a front. And there's a window in a well here, a glass block window under this double mullioned window that's proposed to be an egress window. Would go right here to the left of the radon unit. Here's the window that's there currently. It's got a little well. It looks, it's obviously been replaced with glass blocks. It looks to me like it's probably been enlarged at some point in the past when it got its new glass blocks, but I'm not sure of that date. Here's a picture. I'm on the lawn. I'm not quite backed up onto Buena Vista, but this was the way that I could best show these whole 2 sides of the house. The new window well would be here. This is actually a little bit centered, a little bit too much. This one's a little more accurate. Here's the window that would be demolished for a new well. You can see that there's a basement playroom. They're going to take out a wall and make one bigger space down here. Here's the well. It's standard size. It's a little over 4 feet by a little over 4 feet. It's a fiberglass well. It's one of those pre-molded ones. It does have an acrylic cover that they want to use to keep stuff from falling down into it. The window is standard egress size. Here's what it looks like on the inside. There's an existing glass block window, 30 inches wide, 22 inches tall. This is what it would look like from the exterior. Sorry, here it is on the interior. It's now 30 inches wide still. It fits in that same opening width-wise, but it's now 48 inches tall. And here's the well on the exterior. The cover does stick up about 10 inches, but I mean, that's pretty removable. Not many people use them. And there is information on the well, I believe, in the packet. These are interior renderings of what the space will look like with the window. And these are a couple of interior shots right now. You can see that there's the little glass block window and the wall that's proposed to be taken out. So this is a pretty straightforward application. I've already read numbers 1, 2, and 9 and 10 to you. From the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for windows, it's recommended to design and install additional windows on rear or non-character defining elevations if required by the new use. New window openings may also be cut into party walls. The design should be compatible with the overall design of the building, but not duplicate the fenestration pattern. It's not recommended to install new windows that are incompatible with the building's historic appearance or obscure, damage, or destroy character defining features. For health and safety codes, it's recommended to identify the building's character-defining spaces, features, and finishes that code-required work will not result in their damage or loss, and to comply with health and safety codes in such a manner that character-defining spaces, features, and finishes are preserved. So you can see from the drawings that, and from the photographs, that they've pushed this back as far as they can. This is the extent of the original part of the house. I don't know if there's basement under this other portion or not, but they they've pushed it back to be as far away from the road as possible. This is the side that has street, and this is the front of the house with street. So it's tough on a corner lot to find a place where these things are invisible. Obviously, you don't want to put it in the mechanical room, so I think that they've done the best that they could, and it's in an appropriate place and using an existing window opening. So staff does believe that this is an appropriate work and meets the standards and guidelines. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioner Fortner and Beeson were on the review committee. Commissioner Beeson, will you please give us your report?
Sure, I think the photos pretty much say it all. You know, we've got a corner building, a corner house, and if this were a house right in the front, we'd look at the front house and front of the house, and this is being installed in the back, the very back. It being a corner lot, you can walk around the side of it and see the back of the house pretty well. And you know, considering the other options, this seemed like a pretty straightforward case of putting it in a better spot. So,
thank you, Commissioner Beeson. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone, turn on your video if possible, and provide your name and address for the record?
I'm Catherine Fillmore. I'm a project coordinator with Forward Design Build, and we are at 6087 Jackson Road, Suite 100, Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Christine Gauthier, and I'm the designer for the project.
Hello, Christine. Welcome. Do either of you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report?
I just want to, a couple things. First of all, Anne did a fabulous job of explaining it and laying it out for us. The only other thing I just want to mention is we are improving the space and bringing a lot of interior items up to code. And so this is just one aspect of the project to increase safety and access to the space. Christine, do you want to add something?
I agree. The only reason the window's there is to code since there's no other egress in the space.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you. We will move on to the public hearing portion for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application at 1117 West Washington. Tristan, do we have any callers?
No callers.
So I will now close the public hearing portion of the application. Is there a commissioner that would like to make a motion on the application? Commissioner Rockland?
Sure. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 1117 West Washington Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to enlarge a basement window opening and install a basement egress window and well with an acrylic cap as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines, especially those for windows and safety codes, and the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particularly standards 1, 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for windows, neighborhood setting, and health and safety.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Rockland, seconded by Commissioner White. Is there a discussion on the motion? I think so. I think, again, this one is pretty straightforward and it meets all the guidelines. So if we can move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning your work on your project.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to item F4, 519 6th Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
Okay, 519 6th Street is in the Old West Side Historic District. This two-story gable fronter features 2 windows, a full-width front porch with turned posts, and a first floor bump out on the south side. First appears in city directories in 1894 as number 5 6th Street, home of the Wenger family. It's located on the east side of 6th, south of West Jefferson, north of West Madison Streets. And the applicant seeks HDC approval to install a gas meter on the south side elevation, 3 feet from the southwest corner of the house. All right, here is the proposed location. We've got the front of the house, and it is 3 feet back on the exterior. You can see that right now in May, it's pretty tough to see that corner of the house. It would be located, I think, right around in this area. I've got a better graphic in just a sec from the DTE application. There we go, meter location. It's to the right of the hose. It's not behind the first window, it's basement window. It's clearly not 15 feet back, and that's why it's here today. Even during the winter, though, there's quite a bit of stuff growing up there. This is, and all the applications tonight are for post-mounted meters, which is appropriate because they don't require anything to be attached to the building. And from the Secretary of Interior standards, I've already read numbers 2, 9, and 10 to you. From the guidelines for mechanical systems, it's recommended to install a completely new mechanical system if required for a new use, so it causes the least alteration possible to the building's floor plan, the exterior elevations, and the least damage to the historic building material. From the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for mechanical equipment, it's appropriate to install mechanical equipment in such a manner that historic materials and features are not damaged or obscured. It's also appropriate to use compatible screening around outdoor mechanical equipment, such as vegetation and fencing, and to attach mechanical equipment so historic fabric is not damaged or destroyed. Also, installing mechanical equipment and wiring in locations on the roof, rear alleys, elevations, or in alleys that are not visible from the street, and painting equipment to blend with the historic building. It's not appropriate to install new mechanical systems or wiring in locations that change or destroy character-defining features and materials. All right, for this particular application, the applicant stated that the meter is unable to be moved farther back to maintain less than 10 feet of fuel line. It says the meter manifold will have minimal visibility from the street due to an existing tree. I'm just going to tell you in general, staff does believe that these applications are appropriate. DTE seems to be being very thoughtful about which ones to bring to the commission. And they've done a good job on so many others, getting them out of the way and farther back. And this one's got enough going on there and obscuring it that I do think that this one, though so close to the front of the house, is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioner Beeson, will you please give the staff report?
Sure.
Or review committee report.
Review committee, yes. Yeah, the pictures were pretty telling. So there's a hose reel attached to the corner of the house that you can't see in the photos. And that's right at the corner and elevated just slightly up. And so the meter would be basically right below that. And we looked at kind of further down the wall and, oh, there we go. So there, meter location. You could see it kind of jammed in between those spots. Yeah. And so we were looking kind of there going, yeah, this corner of the house, it's certainly visible when all the leaves fall down, or should the lilacs, pass on and that get all torn up, you would certainly be able to see it. But can you go to the other photo, the one prior to that? Nope. Yeah, so that one. So we looked further down the wall as well to see if it would be a better spot, but it all just kind of complicates it with the lines that they would have to do inside the house. So these are all kind of the same. It's like, this is what we got. This is where the existing holes are. What do you want to do about it? So that's all I could really say about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Beeson. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone, turn on your video feed if possible, and provide your name and address for the record.
Devin Keys, Corby Energy Services, 6001 Schooner Drive, Belleville, Michigan. Field supervisor on site in Ann Arbor.
Hey, Devin.
And
How are you guys today?
Well, thank you.
I'm Brian Valorns, DTE Energy, General Manager of the Gas Renewal Program, 14270 Schaefer Highway, Detroit, Michigan.
Hi, Brian.
Hey.
Do either of you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report?
No, we just like to put the meter there. It seems to be the best place for all involved and out of sight from the roadway, for the most part.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, we'll move on to the public hearing portion. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about the application at 519 6th Street. Just a reminder to press *9 on your phone to raise your hand. Kristen, do we have any callers?
No callers.
We'll now close the public hearing portion of the application. Would any commissioner like to make a motion? Commissioner Beeson?
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 519 6th Street, a contributed property in the Old West Side Historic District, to install a gas meter on the south side elevation 3 feet from the southwest corner of the house, as shown in the application. As proposed, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, materials, and relationship to the building and the surrounding area, and meets the City of Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for mechanical equipment and the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for mechanical systems.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Beeson, supported by Commissioner White. Is there discussion on the motion? I just wanted to give a little refresher for those who may not be familiar, who would be listening, that we are limited by, amount of pipe that can be run 10 feet, and I think it's also 6 fittings. Is that correct, Devin? Brian shaking his head. That we're really limited in the space where these can actually be located, and try to find the best possible location whenever they cannot be, and that and when they're in the front of the house. So, with that said, I think this is compatible. We can move to a vote. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must apply for your required permits from the city before beginning your project. We'll now move on to item F5, 533 2nd Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
Another house in the Old West Side Historic District is this house, which first appeared in the 1894 city directory as the Kubler home at 43 2nd Street. It's a 1 3/4 story gable fronter with wide board trim in the gable, a full width hip roof porch with turn posts and 1/1 windows. This one's on the east side of 2nd Street between West Jefferson and West Madison, and the applicant is seeking HCC approval to install a gas meter on the north side elevation 5 feet from the front corner of the house. All right, now we're on the north side, going 5 feet back. It's a little bit beyond this water spigot is the location where it would be located. I know that was redundant, the location where it will be located. You can see that there's a glass blocked in window that seems to be kind of overrun with leaves in this photo. We couldn't really see it because it was overrun with lily of the valley in this photo. This photo was provided, I'm assuming that it's to illustrate that there's a full width deck on the back of the house, and that would therefore be a difficult place to put a meter with that deck in place. I've already read to you all of the standards and the guidelines that apply. For this application, it's the same reasons as the last one, unable to move it farther back to maintain less than 10 feet of fuel line, and then also that there's that deck on the rear of the home. The post mount is appropriate because it's reversible. And that's it for the staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioner Beeson, will you please give your review committee report?
Sure. So this one, same kind of stuff. But on the driveway side, which is much more visible, we can tell that this would still be kind of right in the way, and you'd be able to see it and interrupt kind of the character defining features. So pushing it on this side of the house certainly gets it up and out of the way. It's a similar issue going on with, we don't know how the mechanical systems are being run inside, so that 10-foot pipe length and joints can easily make a difference. So this is where the existing location is, but it is forward of the house. If that fence was removed to the left, you'd certainly be able to see it, but it wouldn't stand out any more or less than any of the other mechanical stuff in that area. Well, really the hose.
Thank you, Commissioner Beeson. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report? These are all going to be pretty much the same.
Yeah, I would just add, and it's really more general knowledge, whenever we have like a deck or something that is on the back of a house and our service line, we cannot put a service line underneath a deck or whatever, because we have to have access to that service line. So that would also be an area that would be prohibited by code on the gas code side. We would call that a build over in our world, right? So we can't you put fuel line underneath a front porch because you can get to the gas meter for emergency purposes. But when the service line itself has a porch or a structure, sometimes houses or trailers get moved on top of our line, it's a violation of the gas code. So that kind of takes that area out of the picture as well.
It's good to know. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any additional questions or any questions? Well, would now like to open the public hearing portion for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak up to 3 minutes about this application at 533 2nd Street. Kristen, do we have any callers?
No callers.
I will now close the public hearing portion of the application. Would any commissioners like to make a motion on this application? Commissioner Racklin?
Okay. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 533 2nd Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to install a gas meter on the north side elevation, 5 feet from the corner of the house as shown in the application. As proposed, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement materials, and relationship to the building and the surrounding area, and meets the City of Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for mechanical equipment and the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for mechanical systems.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Racklin, seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Racklin?
Sure. I mean, this seems like being 5 feet back from the corner when it's one of these obviously difficult to place homes seems like kind of a best case scenario. If they got to go back to the unit with, I assume that there's something there in the front that they have to be close to. So this just seems like a best case scenario of the worst case scenarios. So it's looking good.
Okay. All right, we can move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning your work on your project. On to item F6, 637 5th Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
This unique house is located on the east side of 5th Street and south of Princeton and north of West Davis. First appears in city directories in 1911 as the home of Louis Thews, a paper hanger for Cook Brothers. House is constructed of structural clay tiles with intricate color patterns, an ornate brick chimney, full width front porch of structural clay tile and brick, and clipped front and side gables. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to install a gas meter on the south elevation, 1 foot from the southwest corner of the house. This is the southwest corner of the house over here. All right, this one's only a foot from the corner, but you'll see why in just a second. There's kind of a lot going on this corner. The corner of the house is back here behind the porch. I think it kind of helps that there's a solid masonry porch here. It makes this seem a little bit farther back and kind of hard to see right now, but here's a view. The meter would go right here, right on the edge of the house between the porch and the radon mitigation unit. There's not a whole lot of space there, but there's enough. There are some blocks piled up here and stuff. We're not sure what was going on with those. We've got an egress window. There's a very ornate chimney here that's really cool. I'm sorry I don't have a better picture of it, but there's so much going on in this area that really adding a meter, I think, is again a best case scenario of a worst case scenario. I'm not sure when this radon mitigation unit went in. I haven't looked that up. And it's the least visible elevation of the house by far. You know, if you're looking at the house from the front, this is a newish house built probably within the last 12 years. And it didn't used to be here, and the side of this house used to be much more visible, but now 637 5th Street is blocked from view screen much more by this other house. So I'm glad that it's not having to go on the north side because that's much more visible. The reasons given for this one, this must be the back of the house. There appears to be some other kind of a meter here and a back porch. I've already read the standards and guidelines to you. The reasons given for this one state that it would maximize the 10 foot of fuel line placed as far back as possible, and that the meter manifold would have minimal visibility due to an existing tree. So really that concludes staff's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioner Beeson, please give the review committee report.
Sure, this is definitely an eclectic house. There's an image that shows the location, and it shows the fact that the foundation wall was built as a continuous wall that extends into the porch area as a semi-enclosed porch. So there you can see it. So it kind of continues straight across. It's hard to tell here is that it looks like there's a nice clean break at the porch area, which there sort of is. But there is definitely like a crawl space that's part of the conditioned area. So though it looks like from this image that you could see kind of the white brick is differentiating the front of the house and the back, as it slides down and goes further down, it's actually just one straight continuous wall all the way across. And so while, you know, it'd certainly be preferred to kind of get that on the corner of the house in, this is a weird one because of the way that that foundation wall jets out. And so much of the detailing on this house is pretty much its character defining features. You know, how they ended up using the clay tile with the brick and how they mixed it all in, to me is what really defines this house the most. So again, this is another one of these how to deal with a bad situation and put it somewhere. This seems like it would work well enough. I don't know if we've got a photo, Jill, that kind of shows the height a little better of where it would be installed in that area of brick. There we go. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to, maybe we could ask the applicant too, like the existing pipelines, or we think, are just to the bottom right of the radon mitigation. So I don't know if that's where the old pipeline went in, right in there, and how they're going to try and run the new one. And it's definitely going to interrupt the brick, just like the radon does. And there's going to be some, you know, a hole drilled right through it. So this is different than on some of the houses where it's just you're going through a wood ridge beam. This is definitely damaging some brick. So that's the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Beeson. Devin or Brian, do you have anything to add? Okay, good. I'll open the public hearing portion for this item for 637 5th Street. Remember to press *9 on your phone to raise your hand. Kristen, do we have any callers?
No callers.
Closing the public hearing portion. Would any commissioners like to make a motion? Commissioner Quijano?
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 637 5th Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to install a gas meter on the south elevation, 1 foot from the southwest front corner of the house, as shown in the application. As proposed, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, materials, and relationship to the building and the surrounding area, and meets the City of Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for mechanical equipment and the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for mechanical systems.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Quijano and seconded by Commissioner White. Is there a discussion on the motion? I had a question maybe for Commissioner Beeson. The brick detailing that you were referring to, is that essentially a water table? A couple rows of?
That location, I do not think it was. Can you bring up the photo again? Yeah, I was trying to look at that intensely because it did at first seem like a water table.
So in one of the rear photos, it looked like it was a little bit proud.
Yeah.
But the one that we were looking at just before, it looked flush.
Oh, I'm gonna try and remember. Yeah, so it did. So the brick above it is a slight water table, but it's really, really small. I remember that first course of the white, just below the clay, had a small little level of water table to it. But again, you could see on the weathering that that's that top little edge that has a little grayness to it. But it's pretty minor. But again, it would be going right through that water table.
Okay. Just something curious. We usually like to see those as.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, we usually see the water table as a more character-defining feature, at least one piece that really establishes that change from the house floor level to the foundation level, and we'd like to at least see those penetrations not enter directly through the water table or in a less prominent spot. Again, it looks like, Go ahead.
Go ahead. Keep going.
I was just saying, looking at the photos, it looks like, the penetration is already there. There is, as you've noted, the existing radon is there as well. It goes right through that brick. It's maybe a slightly different condition in this particular spot as opposed to in the rear of the building. It looked like it was a little bit more defined. So that's just, I guess, my comment. Go ahead, Commissioner Beeson.
Oh, I'll quickly add here, Commissioner Rockland. So, I guess given the preference, it's like if they can run the pipe just below the actual first course, that would be ideal. Or as low as they can get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can we look at a photo to show, because you said first course, but let's look at a photo and point with the cursor to know exactly what you're talking about, because I don't know if it's entirely clear.
And that dark course, is that the course you're referring to?
So the first layer of the water table is up 2 more courses. That's the down one right there. That is the first course of the water table. And then there's another course below it. So if they can go through that or the one below that, that would be ideal. But it all depends on the placement and the height and how to mount the manifold and all that stuff. So.
Okay.
Commissioner Rockland.
I agree that, I think that you just mentioned this, Anna, but the grouping it with the radon, I think, is a positive for this project. Just having those two things together in one location while neither of them are ideal, seems like, yeah, if you're putting them together, that's slightly better than not having them together. And then the other thing is the application, and maybe the other application before stated like there's a tree that's going to block the view, which I guess I disagree with that argument in general. Like, unless there's something that's like right in front of where this thing is going in, a tree that's several feet away from it might block it from one particular view. But in general, I don't buy that as an argument for where we should be putting these. But I do think that the location that was chosen for this project is the right location for this meter. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Commissioner Rockland. Any other discussion? Can move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning work on your project. All right, on to item F7, 1005 West Liberty Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
We're still in the Old West Side Historic District. And this 1.5-story Dutch colonial features a gambrel roof with corner returns, full width front porch with tapered round columns and a gable that faces the street. First appears in city directories in 1910 as the home of Lovett Quigley, an engineer at the Ann Arbor Water Company. It's on the south side of West Liberty Street between 8th Street and Eva White Boulevard. And the applicant seeks HTC approval to install a gas meter on the west side elevation of the house 2 feet from the front corner. And that's going to be this corner right here. All right, so we're 2 feet from the corner. And this is at an existing valve and regulator, which you can kind of see here. You'll see it better in a second. There it is. There's the valve and regulator, which eliminates the need to drill another hole in the foundation of the house. It also runs up against the 10-foot of fuel line problem. And they're pointing out that there's existing foliage to screen the meter, at least in the summer. So this is one I think that's pretty easy, since this other stuff is already here, this other gas meter infrastructure. I do think that this is an appropriate place to mount this. You know, they're 2/3 of the way there already. And staff believes that this work is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioner Beeson, will you please give your report of the review committee?
Yeah, so existing location seems like a simple placement for based on where it was before. Yeah, these are definitely at a rim joist that's wood below the wood water table, so that certainly helps it. But yeah, as long as we can keep the manifolds below that water table.
These are all post-mounted, correct?
Yeah, I think they are.
Does the applicant have anything to add to the review committee or staff report? Not seeing anything. I'd now like to open.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it looks like the right spot. There's already something there. It's gonna add the meter to the regulator, get the regulator on the other side and of the meter, right? So it'll look good.
Thank you. Thanks. I'd now like to open the public hearing for this item at 1005 West Liberty Street. Kristen, do we have any callers?
No callers.
We'll close the public hearing portion of the application. Is there a commissioner that would like to make a motion? Commissioner Rockland.
One moment, please. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 1005 West Liberty Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to install a gas meter on the west elevation of the house as shown in the application. As proposed, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, materials, and relationship to the building and the surrounding areas and meets the City of Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for mechanical equipment and the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for mechanical systems.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Rockland and seconded by Commissioner White. Is there discussion on the motion? Don't see anyone. I agree. I think this is, again, the right location for this particular instance, especially given that the existing manifold and piping are there and all penetrations are basically below the water table. Go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning work on your project. And now to item S8, 603 Turner Park Court. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
This house was built as a duplex at 607 and 609 West Madison. This is the West Madison elevation on the front, and it first appears in city directories in 1917, occupied by Harvey Gray, a lather, and Elmer Bentley, a test man for the telephone company. Features 2 front doors and 2 sets of stairs under the full-width front porch. Front also has a 2-story bay window. You can see here it's slightly off-center. The front-facing roof is hipped with a hip roof dormer. The house shows craftsman influences in its square porch posts and deep eaves. It's located on the south side of West Madison at the southeast corner of Turner Park Court, which is here on this side. So this was built as a duplex, and then an addition was built on the back to add a 3rd unit. The location of the meters is 10 feet back on the east side of the house, which is right about here. And there's some stuff there already. This is proposed to be a 6-meter bank, and when we get to the applicants, maybe they can explain why 6 meters are required for a 3-unit building. I'm a little unsure of that. This is a application photos. Here we've got the meter location. And on the interior, they do show 6 meters. I'm just a little curious as to why. I've already read you the standards and guidelines, and the statement for this location is given as it's necessary to maintain less than 10 feet of fuel line. It's a 6-meter bank, and the tie-in location is restricted by the number of meters, and that the homeowner will screen the manifolds from view with bushes. And that's it from staff.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioner Beeson?
Yeah, this is pretty far out of the way, kind of a big building. There's also a little bit of a slope heading up to there, so it's kind of hard to tell here, but just a little bit. And the building's, it's kind of big as you get back there. It stretches further back, and you know, there's no hiding a bank of meters, so it's you're certainly gonna see it, but you know, so yeah, nothing else.
Thank you. Right, would the applicant please provide any additional information not included in the staff report? Devin?
Yeah, when I met with the resident, you know, he understood the size of the capacity of the meters. He asked that we take what's inside, put it on the outside. I didn't see in the picture submitted there, but if you go further back, the foundation actually, he has water leaks, and after conferring with Brian and his people at DTE, we decided that, you know, for liability issues, it would be safer not to drill further back, just to sit, you know, to prevent any kind of damage to the foundation of that building. Because the homeowner stated to me that he was in the process of doing something with you guys to renovate that foundation, and he requested that it stay closer to the front.
Okay, so 603 Turner Park Court. This is where we need 6 meters, is what was stated in the staff report, but it's a 3-unit building currently. Is there a reason why we need 6 meters?
That would be a question for Brian.
Okay, doesn't look like Brian is still on the call.
Okay, so
Kristen,
well,
is that correct?
then I'll speak to it. Generally,
Okay.
what we do is when we move what's currently in, it's what we move out. Given that he has multiple furnaces and multiple hot water tanks for 3 units, I'm assuming that the usage is just separated per equipment or utility as opposed to having multiple fuel lines. So that's probably why he has 6 meters. So the hot water tank and say the stove is metered one way and then the furnace is metered. If that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. Or just, I guess, brings up another question is, you guys are just replacing basically in kind. There's no combination of meters to reduce fuel lines, reduce service.
On our
Maybe
end,
that's more
no,
of a question
because,
for Brian.
well, it would be the homeowner's responsibility then to probably basically repipe his house if he was going to reduce from 6 meters to 3 meters. Because we're just going to we're going to move the bank outside and tie directly back in based on to where the tie-in points are with the current bank inside.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any additional questions for the applicant? Commissioner Rockland?
Devin, can you explain, since we don't have a drawing, what will 6 meters look like on the outside of a building? I mean, I can picture 6 meters all lined up in a row, or maybe, a 3x2, 2x3. What are we looking at on the outside there? If you could describe it, please.
So generally what we try to do when we get ready to install this bank, I'll get with the property owner, and we do not like to put 6 in a row. It stands out too much. We generally try to stack them 3 and 3. That way it's a little bit more compact. We can keep them a little bit lower, keep our fuel lines less visible. And then that way too, when we plant the vegetation to screen it, you can kind of tuck it in a little bit better because it's not as long on the building. Because if you stack them 3x3, because the valve has to be 8 inches off the ground, so we can kind of space it out and then still give ourselves room to drill and get our pipes through the wall where we can get our hands in the work. But generally I try to go 3 and 3 unless the homeowner prefers something different.
Okay.
I guess just to follow up to that, the 10 feet that's noted in the application, is that to the first meter in the line of 3? Or is that it?
Yes.
Okay. And then do you have, I guess, an approximate, you said 8 inches off the ground is the lowest you can go, so the approximate height of maybe the highest or top of the meter? Do you have an estimate of what that is?
Off the top of my head, without having a manifold in front of me, if the bottom of our valve is 8 inches, you're looking, I want to say maybe 3.5, 4 foot high, but that's just a rough estimate based on, once you put the posts in, you hang your manifolds, and based on your fuel line point of entry. But I mean, we usually try to build them really tight so that they look more like a compact unit, like a commercial meter bank that you would see somewhere like in an alley downtown.
Okay. Are there any additional questions? Not seeing any. So we'll move on to the public hearing portion for 603 Turner Park Court. Please press *9 on your phone. Kristen, do you have any callers?
No callers.
We'll close the public hearing portion of the application. Is there a commissioner that would like to make a motion? I can go ahead and make the motion. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application. Says 637. This is 603 Turner Park Court. Yeah, 603 Turner Park Court, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to install a gas meter on the east side elevation 10 feet I'm just going to back up for a second, to install a bank of gas meters on the east side elevation 10 feet from the northeast corner of the house as shown in the application. As proposed, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement materials, and relationship to the building and the surrounding area, and meets the City of Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for mechanical equipment and the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for mechanical systems.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Epperson, seconded by Commissioner White. Is there a discussion on the motion? Commissioner Rockland?
So this is a unique situation here with 6 meters on the side of the house here. And I guess it was described that it's going to kind of look like a commercial building that you'd see downtown. I think it's going to look nice. Like, you know, I think it will look clean, let's say, but it's going to look unusual for a residential building in this neighborhood. And it's hard to move forward with this for me without, you know, maybe knowing a little more about what is, like, is there a way to avoid this at all? And I mean, I'm okay with it if we just can't avoid it, but if there's a way to go down to 3 meters, that seems way better here. But maybe I realize it would be nice if the homeowner was here, but I guess we've got Devin representing the homeowner. So was there a discussion about maybe going to 3? And do you recall any information you can give us why we're going to end up with 6 here?
Well, I thought they're going to put some bushes around those meters.
Yeah.
He mentioned that earlier.
Well,
so you won't be seeing them.
I guess
Depending
there's
on the
bushes and then there's bushes. So, you know, it's possible that you might not see them, or it's possible that you might, but I don't want to leave. I'm okay with it if there's just no way around it and it's going to be 6. But if there's a discussion point, or maybe there's not. But if there is, I guess I just want to ask Devin again directly. Do you know of any discussion that you had with the homeowner where they talked about definitely not going with 3 meters and going with 6 meters? Or was that discussion not had?
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought I lost you. No, I didn't have that conversation because from a construction standpoint, I generally don't ask the homeowner about their meters, because with it being a 3-unit apartment building, they may have a 6-meter bank set up for their own metering purposes or their own billing purposes through DTE, and that is their information. It's not privy to me. I don't ask because I'm just there to move the meters out as safely, as cleanly as possible. Why they have what they have, unless I'm instructed otherwise, I generally don't ask. The homeowner mentioned that he's working on a remodel and that he was working with you guys through that process. And all he asked is that I would plant bushes to screen the meter bank and that I didn't do any more damage to the existing damaged foundation if all possible. And that's kind of where I left the conversation.
Okay. Thanks for that explanation, Devin.
No
Can
problem.
you pull up Thank you. Can you pull up photos of where these meters are going to go on the side of the house?
And also, Jill, can you speak to any discussions that you've had with this homeowner?
I haven't talked to the homeowners here. Generally, that means that they don't have many concerns. Yeah.
Okay.
I was just trying to find another picture of a meter bank, and I only have one, and it's like the worst possible example, but I'll show it to you guys if you want to see it.
Show it to us.
All
Yeah.
right. Hang on, let me get a different share going here. This is a 7-meter bank.
Devin's meter banks, I'm sure, aren't going to
Ooh.
look like that. Come on.
Yeah. So I can see why they wouldn't want to put them all in a row.
Right.
But if this will help you visualize what 3/3 would look like, this is what happens when you have multiple units. And I understand the concern about having separated leads for water or meters for water and for heat, but it's probably not the last time we're gonna run into that.
Okay, that's a helpful picture, actually, because then I can, like you're saying, imagine 8 inches from the ground. It seems like they could be lower than they're shown here. If the bottom's at 8,
Somewhat. Yeah.
maybe.
Maybe.
The first
I
row
can
would
assure
be
you mine's going to look a lot cleaner than that.
That's on record.
You don't have to worry.
good.
All right.
Pick some good bushes too.
Right.
Ready for a vote?
Yep.
All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please say no. Okay, the motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning work on your project. Thank you, Devin. All right, we'll now move on to MG, new business. There is no new business on tonight's agenda. So we'll move on to item H, minutes. I believe we received minutes for the March meeting, but not for the April meeting, correct?
That's correct.
Give a few minutes to take a quick look at the minutes.
I'm not able to get to the March minutes, but if whoever's able to read them, I'll vote yes.
It's very
Anyone
trusting.
seeing any corrections required? Any issues? Just another minute here. Good. Thumbs up. Okay. Okay, move on. Seeing no corrections, the minutes have been approved as presented. Move on to item I, reports from commissioners. Any commissioner would like to share something with the commission? Things going on. Down to assignments. Review committee will be on Monday, June 7th, 2021 at 5 p.m. for the June 10th, 2021 regular meeting. Do I have any volunteers? I think I can do that one.
Thanks, Anna.
I probably can.
I think I could do July maybe. So I'll throw that out there.
Okay. All right.
Keep
Got
it.
Anna and John.
It's 5 o'clock, right?
Dave's on deck for July. Thank you.
All right, item K1, reports from staff. April 2020 HDC staff activities report is attached. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Thatcher? looks like a lot of gas meters again.
Yeah, a lot of meters.
Yeah, the old west side is really getting torn up right now. With some meter installation.
Where's
Sidewalks
next?
and
Who's next on the list?
I'm sorry, I knew that and I can't remember who it is. It's more of the west side.
Mm.
It's capturing just a little tiny bit of the historic district, so maybe a little farther west. Not as far as your neighborhood, though.
What was that?
Not as far as Jessica's neighborhood.
Oh my!
I don't believe.
We're way.
Are you getting a lot of heat pump installations coming in this year? And are we going to see some, stuff going on the exterior of homes?
More lines.
Haven't had any in a while.
Okay. Probably start soon.
Kind of surprised. Yeah.
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 Or they're just putting them in. Well, they have to get a permit, so you'd see them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Move on to item L. What was that? Go ahead.
No, well, it's heat pump related, but not related to that staff report. So.
Concerns, maybe?
Just a curiosity. Remember the church on Liberty and...
Is it Third?
Third?
Yeah. Have they... I don't think I've seen anything go in yet. I was just curious.
Bushes
have gone in?
Yeah, all of their heat pumps are installed.
They are? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're installed before they got here.
I was going to say, wasn't that a post?
Was it?
Installation? Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Oh man, my memory's going. Okay, thank you all.
They're about to start some window work of replacing non-original windows or non-historic windows. So that'll probably start in a few months. The window places seem to be kind of backed up.
They went with the good bushes.
Good, it's clearly because I didn't notice a thing.
All right. Any other concerns of commissioners? Commissioner Rockland was just a second before you.
Yeah, just a second. I just had a question about window egress wells, and we talked about it at the annual meeting. And so remind me, Jill, just what's the process for are there changes to the standards, or I just remember talking about them. And then does that mean there's new standards coming out, or there's like a whole process to get there? Just remind me kind of what we talked about. And
I'd have to go back and look at my notes.
Yeah.
We talked about a couple different things. I'm pretty sure that you guys were happy with the way egress window wells were worded. And I think that's why you haven't seen any changes to it yet. The other thing we talked about for design guidelines was meters.
Meters, yeah, okay.
And then we ended up with that big, long DTE specific, meter placement guide.
I guess why I brought it up, because maybe I was thinking that I was going to see in your staff report, like this is the standards for window wells or egress wells. But it's fine if that's not what we're going to see. But I was just curious, like, is something going to,
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. We did talk about that. And again, I'd have to go back to the retreat notes and figure that out. Wells. Yeah, we talked about well specific stuff. That it wouldn't go in my staff reports now.
Okay.
Because it would need to be approved by the HTC.
Right.
And then approved by City Council and approved by the SHPO before we formally start it. But thank you for that reminder.
Okay. Sorry.
We should start that.
So that's
if we made a change.
That's a process.
If we made a change. That's a process.
Okay.
I believe that now that we're talking about it, I believe we did go through some of the guidelines for windows and locations.
I remember Commissioner Fortner had some good suggestions for just use this and yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Rockland. Commissioner Beeson.
Yeah, so I had some curiosity and concern at the same time, and it could also be that I just didn't spend any time to look at the applications and dig into my memory from the past. But 1113 West Washington Street. This is a house right near Slauson. It's right in front of Slauson or in the back of Slauson. Depends on your perspective of Slauson, I guess. It faces West Washington Street, and I had noticed that the whole porch was being redone, and I don't remember an application. Do you want a street view?
Oh, porch.
More than just
1113
replacing,
West.
they're not just replacing like with like, there's like,
No, there's like, they have the whole porch being held up with giant posts, and then the whole bottom of it and all the railings are gone and the steps up to it. And they're pouring all this concrete out in front of it right now. And I don't remember an application there. And I could have completely forgotten it, but it just raised a concern.
You said it was,
1113.
what was the address? West Washington.
Yeah. Jill, you're muted.
Little white house.
Yep.
This one? Can you see that?
Not yet.
No, you can't see that. Okay. Oh, hang on.
Yes. I'm pretty sure it was that one.
Yep, that's 1113. I'll take a look. I'm not sure what's going on with that one. It's not ringing any bells. A lot of porch repairs, though, end up being staff approvals if they're, say, taking everything down, getting to the underpinnings of the deck, rebuilding it, and then putting new wood decking down and putting the posts and the rails and everything back the way they were. That's usually a staff approval. This one is not ringing a bell, but yeah, we'll look into it. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Okay.
Kristen's just checked on the slide and she says she doesn't see an HTC application for that. So I'll take a look. Thank you.
Yeah.
They must not have been working the day that the review committee went out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Ducey. All right. Any other concerns? Item M1, communications. I believe there are no communications to the HDC this month. So with that, we'll move on to item N, adjournment. And now adjourn the May 13th, 2021 HDC meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.